Ah, the dreaded writer's block, a writer's worst enemy, or so many writers believe. The term writer's block has gotten the distinction of being some sort of potential terrible affliction to any and all who take on the role of writer. So much so that this belief has itself created a stigma that plays into the creativity of all those feeling the need to despise it. In other words, most create a problem that was never there to begin with. Don't get me wrong, there are those who generally experience the pangs of writer's block. But even in those rare cases, there is always a way of overcoming it. Time for another of my little tales.
Why did you let him kill me?
A young woman by the name of Michaela has been told to house sit a very old house, and if she can remain within its walls until morning, then she will receive a briefcase containing $1 million. The only caveat is that she must never open the iron door at the end of the hall. The young woman agreed, and at first light, the following day, she stepped into the house, and the old woman who owned the house was waiting there for her. You must remain inside this house until morning. I have left enough food and water for you, and you may roam into any room you see fit to explore, but as you have been warned, you are forbidden from opening the iron door at the end of the hall. After the old woman left, Michaela realized in her haste to get to the house she had forgotten to eat her breakfast, so off to the kitchen she went to fix herself something to eat. When she had finished eating, she decided to go exploring. She went into many of the rooms and even decided on the bedroom she would sleep in that night. But it wasn't until she was standing at the start of the hallway that she remembered the iron door. Curious to take a look at the door, she walked towards the end of the hallway. When she was standing in front of it, she realized it was unlike any door that she had ever seen before. She was tempted to turn the knob and take a quick peek inside when she remembered the old woman's warning. Disappointed, she walked away and tried to look for something else to occupy her time. But after some time had passed, she thought she heard noises coming from the end of the hallway. Knowing that she was supposed to be alone in the house, she carefully made her way along it until she was once again standing in front of the iron door. It was then that she heard a voice call out from behind the door. Is someone there? Asked Michaela. Yes, said the voice. I'm trapped inside this room. Could you please open the door and let me out? I'm sorry, answered Michaela. I'm forbidden from touching the door. It's okay, replied the voice. I'm a young girl like you, and I promise not to tell the old woman that you freed me. Michaela thought for a moment, and then, after looking back along the hallway to make sure no one was there to see her, she turned the handle and pushed the door open. She soon realized that she had made the biggest mistake of her life. Today, I'll talk about the dreaded writer's block, and then I'll tell you what Michaela had done. So, what is writer's block? It is the inability to begin or continue writing for reasons other than a lack of basic skill or commitment. See, those are two important things: basic skill and commitment. If you don't have the basic skills to write, and I'm not saying that applies to you directly, then what you're experiencing isn't a form of writer's block. What you are experiencing is a lack of skill, an inability to actually write in the first place. You sit down and begin to write your first 500-page novel. You create a few interesting characters and create a setting in a land you have always dreamed of visiting. You write about your protagonist first stepping onto the shores of this dreamland. He looks around, smiling at the vast number of people strange to him, wearing clothing unlike any he has seen before, speaking a language he has never once heard before. You then have him walking across the sand, happy at the way the sand feels between his toes. He makes it to the end of the beach where it meets the road, and after placing his suitcase down, your protagonist just stands there, not doing a thing. The thing is, he's not doing anything because you haven't written anything more for him to do. And you haven't written anything more because you believe you are experiencing writer's block. Wrong. You haven't written anything more because you don't know what more to write. You're out of your element. You don't know your character well enough to know what he'd do in a situation like that. You don't know your chosen setting well enough to know where he can travel to next, and you don't know anything about the language that is foreign even to you. It's not writer's block, it's lack of skill. Let's say you do know your character well enough because you have based it on yourself. And let's say you know the setting because it's a place you visited often as a child. And let's say the language isn't foreign to you because it's one your grandmother taught you. But let's also say this is a novel you have been attempting to write for several years. And up until you decided to begin writing it, you had only ever written 30-page short stories. By the time you get to the part in your novel where your main character is standing at the side of the road and you can't get yourself to write any further, it's not because you are suddenly experiencing writer's block. It's because you just don't have the commitment to write at the level that a 500-page novel would demand from you. Now, that you know that writer's block isn't as prevalent as first assumed, let's better understand this actual setback. And I say setback because if you have both the skill and the commitment, then writer's block need only be nothing more than a temporary setback for you. Now, while I'm saying setback, you're probably thinking anything that keeps you from writing is an interruption you can't afford. And you would be right. Whatever it is, if it's keeping you from writing, then it's definitely something you'd like to avoid. But to avoid the dreaded writer's block, you first need to understand what causes it. Well, in a way, that's easy. It's a number of things, the most relevant being the lack of inspiration. But you probably already knew that. The real question is, what causes a lack of inspiration? A few things. Stress and anxiety. Let's start with stress. What is stress in relation to creativity? Stress is one of those, let's call it ailments, that can be found almost everywhere. First of all, stress is a natural response to internal or external stressors, which can affect mental and physical health. I know I'm sounding a little too much like a medical journal, but bear with me. In regard to your creative side, it can affect you if you're feeling pressured, if you're overly worried or lacking control over a situation. Think of having to write an essay as part of a college entrance exam. For some, the word essay is stressful enough. No one looks forward to writing an essay. So there's an obvious lack of control over the situation, which goes hand in hand with being pressured. And think about it. Why would you not be worried? Especially if you know that to hand in a poor exam could cost you that acceptance letter. Anxiety brings about feelings of dread, fear, and uneasiness. Imagine trying to create a best selling novel while experiencing any one of these. Writing, creating is meant to be an enjoyable experience that enables you to carry your reader along your fascinating journey. If you are experiencing a level of anxiety that is so overwhelming that you can no longer enjoy the journey you have embarked on, you will undoubtedly find yourself unable to continue. A perfect setting for writer's block to take hold of you. Now, knowing what writer's block is, what is it actually doing to you? Actually, nothing. Stop thinking of writer's block as an entity that is stopping you from writing. Only you can stop you from writing. Writer's block is merely a title we have given to the state we have found ourselves in due to a lack of inspiration. So, to avoid this so called writer's block, find ways to keep yourself motivated. What were you doing just before experiencing this writer's block? If you were taking your protagonist to yet another conflict, then maybe the problem lies with that particular conflict. Maybe this latest conflict just isn't interesting enough. I mean, think about it. How can you expect your reader to want to read about it when you can't find enough interest in it to continue writing it? Therefore, write a different conflict, one you can enjoy writing. You see, writer's block, as powerful as writers give it credit for being, can't stand up to a strong, motivated imagination. It's like kryptonite to it. The stronger your motivation, the weaker it becomes. Remember, writer's block is always somewhere, just waiting to step in and screw up your writing. It doesn't want you to finish anything. If I remember correctly, I think it's the distant cousin to procrastination or something. But don't worry, just be aware of the fact that although their whole purpose in life is to see you fail, they can only cause you to fail if you let them. Look at it this way: they exist merely to stop you from writing. So, the best way to eradicate them is to keep writing. It doesn't matter what it is. It actually doesn't matter if it's something that you'll later throw away. The important thing is, as long as you're writing, you're beating them. And once they've crawled back into the hole they crawled out of, you will be free to resume your writing. And now I'll tell you the ending to the story I call I Wish I Were More Like Her. It turns out that before the old woman had made that deal with Michaela, where she would get a briefcase containing $1 million if she didn't open the door at the end of the hall, she had earlier made a deal with another young woman. But that deal was a little different. The old woman told that young woman to remain on the other side of the iron door, and if she could find a way to get out of the room without ever touching the iron door, she could keep the briefcase containing $1 million. So, when Michaela opened the door for her, the young woman waiting on the other side of it walked out into the hallway holding the briefcase, and after smiling to Michaela, thanked her for being so gullible, then hurried out of the house a millionaire. Thanks for watching, and if you found anything that I said beneficial to you in any way, hit that subscribe button because you never know. My next video might just be helpful too.